Alright, me and Hannah are going over to the other place. We're going to start building some fence, some temporary. There we go. We're going to be dividing the fields so that we can do intensive grazing on the fields and not let it get ahead of us, so that we can get all the nutritional value of the grass, and the cows won't be knee high and they just walking on it more than they are eating.
So Henry's over here pushing some of these posts in the ground, and they're going in pretty easy because it's good and wet right now in the springtime, and swing steer makes it pretty easy.
Alright, we're going to show you why we like these LockJawz HD 360 heavy duties. These are very versatile. They really help a farmer out. If you know T-posts, unless you drive them in by hand where you can adjust them, if you push them in with a tractor or something, or skid steer, sometimes they'll hit a rock and they'll twist. Well, something we like about these ones, you can put it in any way. You can put it on this side, the front, wherever. It don't matter. You can put it on there. If you have a wood post that's mixed in and you're just running temporary electric, you just want to get it up, these here can hold a fence staple inside of it where you can put it any way around the post and it'll hold the wire. You can also take the wire and put it around the outside of it if you're making corners or bends in your fence with steel posts. It puts a lot of pressure on like a traditional donut insulator or one of those little hook ones. It puts a lot of pressure on them, and if you have a cold snap or something and the animal hits it, or a deer, most time they snap off. We had a lot of trouble with that through the winter, and you've seen that in our old videos. So I'm going to show you how these go on and how simple they are to put on and how good they hold wire. Okay, so this insulator has two little, almost like jaws, and that's where it's supposed to bottom out. T-post is kind of like a triangle. It's got three sides, so two sides need to be bottomed out in those two little slots, no matter where it's at. So we want ours oriented like this. This is where we're wanting to put the wire the whole way down the fence. So we do about waist high, because we got tall cows. So you just come in, you put it all the way down at the bottom on one of those little ledges, and then you just rotate your hand and snap it around, and there you go. And your wire just snaps in under right through here, and this curve, this horseshoe shape, is what gives it where you can bend it around. You can hook the wire straight in like this right here. You just bend it just like a normal insulator and snap it in. But this allows it where you can bend the wire around and it won't kink it. You can bend it one way, make corners. You can do whatever you want, but it's a whole lot more captured and can't come out as easy. And these are their heavy-duty version. They're made in USA. They're pretty nice so far. We're gonna try them out this year and see about them. We've heard all good things about them, so we're gonna see. Another thing I'm gonna talk about, these ones, it doesn't matter which way they're oriented. This way, we've got the little tab down that you put it up through. It rests on these little ends of the horseshoe. This one, we got it the other way, and it just rests against this bottom piece. It's whichever way you prefer, it doesn't matter. These are designed for aluminum, steel, poly wire, poly rope, 1/2-inch poly tape, and barbed wire. So they are not for woven wire. Right, here's a good example of what we're talking about. The post is twisted a little bit where the wire is at a little bit of an angle. So you get a little bit of an angle there. So we'll come up about waist height. Put them on. There we go. It lets it freely.
Well, because of that horseshoe shape,
You get the wire straight.
it doesn't matter. You know, the insulator's not got it bent out of shape.
Yeah.
So here is the temporary fence up.
So this is a steel post bracing system. It's called a wedge lock, I believe. I can't remember what the exact name, but we got it at Tractor Supply. And basically it allows you to create a corner brace or a line brace or whatever in your temporary fence, so you can put tension on the wire without just pulling the post over. So it allows you to you know, not have to drive a wood post or something to pull off of. Okay, so these fences were laid out for rotational grazing. And what you're looking at right here is a permanent fenced alleyway. And this alleyway allows for cow movement from one field to the next without having to go into the actual field. So you can bypass fields and go to another field through this alleyway. Okay, so moving on from the alleyway, you can see that the fields are divided here using temporary fence. Mostly. There is some permanent fence in certain areas, but each one of these fields measures roughly 3 acres. And that's working out pretty decent for our herd size to be able to eat it down and then move on to a new paddock. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 fields. Okay, so right here you can see a section of alley that is unfinished. So all the way down at the far end, you see 2 wood posts driven up in the field. That was where the permanent alley is going to actually terminate down there. Now, right now we're using the temporary fencing just to make the divide, and that highlights an area where this temporary fencing really shines. Is it allows you to go out and try out different paddock configurations without having to go through all the work and expense and everything of installing a permanent fence and then discovering later on that, well, no, that doesn't work. So we've had an example of that right here. So this first paddock right here, the gate or the entrance to this field is all the way up beside the barn. And the cows needed to move from this field into the alley and then bypass these other 2 fields and go into the field that's in front of the house. And we didn't have a gate on this end of the paddock. So the cows had to go in at the north end of the paddock and then turn and travel south to get to the field that we wanted them to be in. And that caused a problem because basically the cows had to turn back on themselves in order to get to where we wanted them to go. So we had part of the herd that made the turn just fine, and part of the herd then basically turned and ran because they just got confused. So, we're learning that where we need to put gates, or where the location that gates need to be installed. And some fields need to have multiple entrances and exits depending on how the rotation is being executed. You can see here what I'm talking about. This is the entrance into the alleyway that's up by the barn. And that works fine as long as the cows are coming from this field into the alleyway and going north into the pasture over here where the winter pasture where the feedlot was. If they're going that way, they flow. But when you needed to go from this field into the alleyway and then south into the paddock that the cows are in currently, that meant that the cows had to come in, turn back on themselves, and go down the alleyway. And some of the herd just followed. Once the cows started going down the alleyway, some of the herd stayed in the paddock side of the fence and got confused. Well, then they were separated from the rest of the herd, so then they got nervous. So we've learned that we're going to have gates for certain fields. Are going to have gates into the field and out of the field on both sides. And this temporary fence, while it is functional and it's what is currently holding the cows, we don't want to rely on that permanently. It just needs to be used as a experimental trial base. As far as keeping fences electrified in the more rural, more separate areas, that's not a problem. These solar powered boxes, chargers, work very well for electrified fences that are pretty far removed from other infrastructure on the farm. But water is a big problem for rotational grazing. You have to be able to have access to be able to reach a water tank with a hose. It doesn't have to be a permanent installation on the water, like a frost-free type water, but you at least do need a hydrant, and then you need to be able to reach each paddock with a garden hose. So you can use a galvanized water tank with a float valve.
Hey, you can give him hugs now.
I doubt he'll follow me with them two right there.
He will if you'll turn around and go.
Come here. geese. Munchkin only came like one time to try and like get me to let her out. Oh, you eat my pants. Why can't the babies be this nice? Those are my pants. Why must you eat me? Look, slobber everywhere.
Kind of push him this way, Gracie. Don't let him go.
Pull the wires this way. Come on, gal.
Come on. Come on.
Come on, Dave.
Come on. Come on. Come on.
Yards in here.
Come on. Come on, girls. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on, babies.
And this would be the perfect time to get a baby.
If you had been thinking about rotational grazing, we're hoping that this video helped you see some of the pros and cons. We are learning as we go the differences of how we want the paddocks to be set up. And as been said earlier, this is a very cost-efficient way to get your fences up and kind of see what works and what doesn't work, so you don't have to spend a lot of money on something that doesn't work. Guys, if you like this type of video, we'd really appreciate if you'd help us out and consider subscribing. And until next time, we'll see you around.